If a woman likes you, she's almost never going to say, "Come here, I want you." That's not how attraction usually works. Instead, women tend to show interest through small, subtle signals, tiny behaviors that most men completely miss. Attraction rarely announces itself, it whispers. As a woman, I'll admit this honestly. We don't usually say, "I like you." We show it quietly. In this video, I'll reveal 7 subtle signals women often show when they're attracted to you, but won't openly admit it. And pay attention. Signal number 4 happens almost automatically when the attraction is real. Before we start, quick question for you. Comment yes if you've ever wondered whether a woman was actually interested in you. Now let's start with the signal that most men completely misunderstand. One of the strongest signals that a woman feels attracted to you often appears in a way that seems completely casual, a small touch. Now, many men assume these moments are random. Maybe she brushed your arm by accident. Maybe she tapped your shoulder without thinking. Maybe she adjusted your collar or brushed something off your shirt. But here's something important to understand. When a woman feels nothing for a man, she usually keeps her physical distance very clearly. Personal space matters a lot to us. We don't casually break that boundary with someone we feel neutral about, which is why this signal matters so much. A woman rarely touches a man she feels nothing for. Think about situations you may have experienced before. You say something funny and she lightly touches your arm while laughing. Or while talking, she reaches over and fixes your collar. Sometimes she even brushes invisible lint from your shirt or gives a quick playful tap when making a point. On the surface, these gestures look small, but psychologically, they reveal something deeper. They show comfort and, more importantly, curiosity. Because when a woman feels drawn to a man, physical contact often becomes a quiet way of testing the connection. That small touch allows her to see how you react. Do you pull away awkwardly? Do you suddenly freeze? Or do you stay relaxed and comfortable? Your reaction tells her a lot about your confidence and emotional presence. And here's something many men don't realize. Sometimes that touch is not just about closeness, it's also about curiosity. Touch is curiosity in physical form. It's a subtle way of asking a question without words. How does this feel between us? Now, the biggest mistake men make in these moments is overreacting. Either they become overly excited or they suddenly act nervous and stiff. The best response is much simpler. Stay calm. Stay natural. Continue the conversation as if the moment felt completely normal. That relaxed confidence is exactly what allows attraction to grow. But here's the interesting part. Physical touch usually doesn't appear out of nowhere. In many cases, there's another signal that shows up first. Something that happens quietly before she ever reaches out and touches you. Quick question for you. Have you ever noticed a woman lightly touching your arm or shoulder during a conversation? Let me know in the comments because the next signal often appears even earlier, sometimes in the space between you and her. Before a woman ever reaches out and touches you, something else usually happens first. The distance between you slowly begins to disappear. This comes down to something psychologists call personal space. Every person has an invisible boundary around them, and most of the time, we protect that space without even thinking about it. We naturally keep a certain distance from strangers, coworkers, or people we feel neutral about. But attraction changes that. When a woman feels drawn to a man, her body often starts to move closer without conscious effort. Not dramatically, not in a way that feels obvious, just small shifts that reveal interest if you know what to look for. Maybe you're sitting across from each other talking, and she leans slightly forward while listening to you. Maybe her shoulders slowly turn toward you even though other people are around. Or maybe during the conversation, she gradually closes the space between you, inch by inch, until the interaction feels more personal. These small movements might seem meaningless, but they carry a powerful psychological message. Interest moves closer, indifference creates distance. When we feel curious or attracted to someone, we instinctively want to be inside their space. Being physically closer allows us to feel their energy, hear their voice more clearly, and experience the connection more directly. And here's something many men misunderstand in these moments. Sometimes when a woman leans in, the man instinctively leans back. He worries he might be invading her space or making things uncomfortable, so he creates more distance. But that reaction can accidentally weaken the moment because if she moved closer, it usually means she already feels comfortable being there. The key isn't to move aggressively toward her. The key is simply not to retreat. Stay relaxed. Maintain the space that naturally formed between you. When the distance feels comfortable for both of you, it creates a subtle sense of intimacy that makes the conversation feel different from a normal interaction. And this is why body language is so important in attraction. Words can be polite, words can be neutral, but the body is often much more honest. The body often says what the mouth won't. When you start noticing these small shifts in space and posture, you begin to see the difference between someone who is simply being friendly and someone who is genuinely drawn to you. But what's even more interesting is that the next signal doesn't require movement at all. In fact, it usually appears in one of the quietest moments of a conversation, a moment when neither of you is speaking. Sometimes the strongest signal of attraction appears in complete silence. No movement, no touch, no words, just a look that lasts a little longer than usual. Eye contact is one of the most powerful forms of nonverbal communication humans have. In everyday conversations, people usually look at each other briefly and then glance away. It's natural. It keeps the interaction comfortable and it prevents things from feeling too intense. But attraction changes that pattern. When a woman feels drawn to a man, her eyes often reveal it before anything else does. Instead of quick, polite glances, her gaze may stay on you just a little longer. Maybe 3 seconds, maybe four. Sometimes even longer if the moment feels natural. And those few extra seconds can change the entire energy of a conversation. You might notice she holds eye contact while you're speaking, listening more attentively than usual. Sometimes she'll smile slightly while looking at you. Other times, the conversation pauses for a moment, and instead of looking away, she keeps her eyes on yours. That moment may feel small, but psychologically, it's incredibly meaningful because sustained eye contact creates connection. It builds a sense of intimacy between two people without either of them saying a word. And here's where many men make a mistake. When that longer eye contact happens, they immediately look away. Sometimes it's because they feel nervous. Sometimes it's because the moment suddenly feels intense. But by breaking eye contact too quickly, the opportunity for that quiet connection disappears. Confidence in these moments is simple. You don't need to stare intensely or try to dominate the interaction. The key is just to remain calm and hold the eye contact naturally for a moment longer than you normally would. When that happens, something interesting occurs. The atmosphere shifts slightly. The conversation starts to feel more personal, more engaging, and sometimes even a little electric, because eye contact is often the first place where attraction becomes visible. Eyes reveal curiosity, they reveal attention, and sometimes they reveal emotions that words are not ready to express yet. But here's something even more subtle. Sometimes you can notice attraction without even looking at her eyes, because the next signal often appears in something most men rarely pay attention to at all: her voice. Attraction doesn't only appear in body language, sometimes it appears in something even more subtle: the way a woman speaks to you. Most people assume that a person's voice stays the same in every conversation, but in reality, our tone, rhythm, and warmth change depending on how we feel about the person we're talking to. And when a woman feels attracted to a man, her voice often changes without her even realizing it. It may become slightly softer, slower, warmer. Instead of speaking quickly and casually like she might with friends or coworkers, her tone may carry a more relaxed and intimate quality when she talks to you. You might notice that she lowers her voice slightly when the conversation becomes more personal or that her words sound a little gentler, almost as if the conversation has shifted into a more private space, even if you're in a public setting. These changes are rarely intentional. They're simply the body responding to emotion. When we feel comfortable and intrigued by someone, our nervous system relaxes, and that relaxation shows up in the voice. The tone becomes smoother, more expressive, and sometimes even a little playful. As a woman, I can tell you something honestly. Many women don't even realize this change is happening. We're not consciously thinking, let me change my voice to sound more attractive. It just happens naturally when we enjoy someone's presence. But there's another detail men often overlook. Sometimes you'll notice that the way she speaks to you is different from how she speaks to other people nearby. With others, her voice might sound more casual or neutral. With you, it may carry more warmth and attention. That difference matters because attraction often reveals itself in small adjustments like this. Adjustments that happen automatically when we feel chemistry with someone. Now, the important thing here isn't to analyze every single word she says. Instead, pay attention to the feeling behind the tone. Does the conversation feel warmer, more personal, slightly more intimate than a normal exchange? If the answer is yes, that may not be a coincidence. But interestingly, there's another signal that often appears right alongside this one, and it's something that can completely change the energy of a conversation. It's simple, natural, and surprisingly powerful. Her laughter. Another signal that a woman may be attracted to you is surprisingly simple. She laughs a lot. Now, of course, laughter by itself doesn't always mean attraction. Some people are naturally cheerful and laugh easily in many conversations. But when a woman consistently laughs more when she's around you, it can reveal something deeper. Because laughter isn't just about humor, it's about connection. When two people feel comfortable with each other, laughter becomes a natural bridge between them. It lowers tension, builds warmth, and creates a feeling that the interaction is enjoyable and safe. And snorts when a woman is attracted to a man, something interesting often happens. Suddenly, even his average jokes seem a little funnier. Maybe you make a simple comment, nothing extraordinary, and she laughs warmly. Maybe she smiles often during the conversation, reacting enthusiastically to things you say that other people might barely react to. It's not that you suddenly became the funniest person in the room. It's that attraction changes perception. When a woman is attracted, even ordinary moments can feel more entertaining, and laughter becomes a natural expression of that feeling. Sometimes the signal becomes even clearer through small details. She might lightly touch your arm while laughing. She might lean closer as she reacts to something you said, or she might keep the playful energy going even after the joke has passed. All of these reactions help create a light, positive atmosphere between the two of you. But here's where some men unintentionally make a mistake. They suddenly become too serious. Instead of continuing the relaxed conversation, they switch into a formal or overly analytical tone. And that shift can quickly drain the playful energy that laughter created. The better approach is simple: stay in the moment. Keep the interaction easy, relaxed, and natural. When laughter flows naturally in a conversation, it often means both people feel comfortable being themselves. And that's exactly where attraction grows best. In fact, many strong connections begin with nothing more complicated than two people enjoying each other's company. But what's interesting is that sometimes this laughter is triggered by another subtle behavior, something many women do without even realizing it. A small, almost automatic gesture that appears when a woman starts paying closer attention to how she looks around you, and it often involves something surprisingly simple: her hair. Sometimes attraction reveals itself through a gesture so small that most people barely notice it. A woman touching her hair when she's around you. Now, this might sound simple, but it's actually one of the most common unconscious behaviors connected to attraction. When a woman becomes aware of someone she finds interesting, her attention often shifts very subtly to how she presents herself. And one of the easiest ways that shows up is through her hair. You might see her tuck her hair behind her ear while talking to you, or she might lightly twirl a strand of hair between her fingers while listening. Sometimes she'll smooth it down, adjust it, or casually move it away from her face. These gestures often happen automatically. They're not carefully planned signals designed to communicate attraction. In many cases, the woman herself doesn't even realize she's doing them. But psychologically, they reveal something important. When we feel drawn to someone, we become more aware of our appearance. Small grooming behaviors start to appear naturally because, on a subconscious level, we want to present ourselves at our best. Hair plays a powerful role in that process. It's often associated with femininity, beauty, and self expression, which is why it becomes a focal point when a woman feels a little nervous or excited around someone she likes. As a woman, I can tell you honestly that this reaction is incredibly common. When we're talking to someone we're attracted to, there's often a subtle combination of excitement and nervousness. And touching our hair becomes a small outlet for that energy. It helps release tension while also making sure we look good in the moment. But here's an important detail: context matters. If she touches her hair once during a conversation, it might mean nothing at all. But if you notice it happening repeatedly, especially while she's making eye contact, smiling, or reacting warmly to you, it can become part of a larger pattern. And attraction is often revealed through patterns, not single moments. You might see her tuck her hair behind her ear while looking at you, then laugh at something you said, then adjust it again a few minutes later. These tiny signals start forming a quiet rhythm, and once you begin noticing that rhythm, you start to see the difference between casual friendliness and genuine interest. But there's one final signal that many men completely misunderstand because it doesn't appear in body language. It appears in the question she asks you. The final signal often surprises many men because it doesn't come from body language at all. It comes from curiosity. When a woman is genuinely attracted to a man, she usually wants to know more about him. Not just the surface details, but the parts of his life that reveal who he really is. So the conversation begins to shift. Instead of staying in small talk, she starts asking questions that are a little more personal. Maybe she asks about your work and what you enjoy about it. Maybe she becomes curious about your hobbies, your goals, or what you like to do when you're not busy. Sometimes she'll even ask about your past relationships or what you're looking for in the future. At first, these questions might seem like normal conversation, but psychologically, they reveal something important. When someone asks personal questions, they're investing attention and emotional energy into understanding you. And people usually don't make that investment unless they feel some level of interest. In other words, curiosity often signals attraction. It means she's not just enjoying the moment, she's trying to understand the person sitting in front of her. Curiosity is emotional investment. And the more curious she becomes, the more likely it is that she's imagining what it would be like to know you better over time. Sometimes this even shows up in subtle ways. She might ask follow-up questions when you mention something interesting. She might remember details you shared earlier in the conversation, or she might circle back to something you said because she wants to hear more about it. Those moments matter because when a woman begins asking questions like these, she's doing more than just keeping the conversation going. She's quietly evaluating you, your personality, your values, your direction in life, not in a judgmental way, but in a curious one. She's asking herself a simple question: is this someone I'd like to know more deeply? And here's where many men accidentally miss an opportunity. Sometimes they answer these questions in a very short or dismissive way, thinking the questions are casual. But when a woman shows curiosity about your life, it's often an invitation to build a deeper connection. The best response is simple: answer honestly. Share a little about yourself and return the curiosity by asking about her experiences as well. Because when two people become curious about each other, the conversation stops being ordinary, it starts becoming meaningful. And when you look back at all the signals we've talked about, something interesting begins to appear. Not one signal, but a pattern. Now, here's the most important insight about everything we've discussed. A single signal doesn't always mean attraction. Sometimes a woman touches her hair simply out of habit. Sometimes she laughs because the moment is genuinely funny. Sometimes eye contact happens naturally during a conversation, but attraction rarely shows itself through just one signal. It appears through patterns. When several of these signals start happening together, the picture becomes much clearer. Imagine a conversation where she maintains eye contact longer than usual, laughs easily at what you say, leans slightly closer while listening, and at some point lightly touches your arm. Individually, each of those behaviors could be coincidence. Together, they form a pattern that is very difficult to ignore. This is why understanding attraction is less about memorizing a list and more about learning to observe the overall dynamic between two people. Attraction is a pattern, not a single moment. When you begin paying attention to these patterns, something interesting happens. Conversations become easier to understand. You stop guessing so much. You start recognizing when someone is simply being polite and when there's genuine interest behind their behavior. And that awareness changes the way you interact. Instead of hesitating or overthinking every situation, you become more relaxed and present in the moment. You notice the signals. You respond naturally. And the interaction develops in a way that feels smooth instead of forced. But there's another key point many men misunderstand. These signals don't mean a woman wants to rush into anything immediately. Attraction is simply the beginning. It's a green light for connection, not a finish line. Real chemistry grows when two people continue building comfort, trust, and emotional connection over time. And that's where confidence becomes important. Not aggressive confidence, but calm, grounded confidence. The kind that allows you to notice the signals, appreciate them, and respond naturally without pressure. Because the truth is simple, the man who notices the signals is often the man women notice too. Now, I'm curious about something. Which of these signals surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. And if you've ever realized after the fact that a woman was showing one of these signs and you didn't notice it at the time, share that story as well. Your experience might help someone else recognize the moment next.